All right, well, let's take another look at a kind of a different slice of this. So it was announced this morning. It's not really an announcement, apparently, a pretty good solid rumor that Tesla has placed orders for a bunch of actuators from China, enough to build 180,000 bots. If this turns out to be accurate, and it's being reported by a lot of people that usually do their due diligence, like Teslarati, for instance. First thoughts about this order, about what that means in terms of Optimus timing, et cetera. They're talking about first shipments coming in January, and why China instead of the U.S. And anyway, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, people should understand in the manufacturing world, there are different kinds of orders. There are letters of intent that could involve volumes. There is something called a capacity reservation purchase order, which is I need 180,000 worth of these. I want based on, the process times, based on the yields, based on the size of the capex involved. I want you to reserve the factory space. I want you to procure capital equipment, but I haven't given you approval to actually start manufacturing. And then there's the final purchase order. And the final purchase order is I'm giving you authorization also typically to start assembly of it. So we don't know which of those three
Mhm.
stages we're at. We don't know. I don't know. Sometimes people misinterpret what an LOA is. Sometimes people misinterpret what reserving capacity is, or it's a purchase order. And so it could be any of the three things. What do we know? We know Tesla is converging on the third version of the Optimus design. If you're Tesla, you probably want to be producing dozens, then hundreds of them before you put the big order out. Now, this is why I think they're reserving capacity and this supplier isn't actually starting production. But that's my take on it. But it means they are making progress, and it means we're getting closer to that final stage, or that is the final stage, and they actually are starting. It could be a 12-week, 14, 16-week lead time part,
Right.
and they're kicking off production for late Q1 deliveries. So it can be any of the above. My gut tells me that Tesla has to build dozens and hundreds of Optimus before they would want to build
Mhm.
tens of thousands of them. So my gut, and they don't need to order them this early for these mechanical actuators. I don't believe that. Now, the capex involved with these mechanical actuators does need to be ordered 6 to 9 months in advance. So that's the distinction of this. I don't want to get too wonky for your audience, but and then with these, when you see these kind of things out there, first off, I would be very surprised. I don't know where these manufacturing locations are. I know it's a Chinese company. I would be very surprised if Tesla is going to well, I would, to me, the end state for the Optimus supply chain is that there's a US supply chain, there's a European Union supply chain, and there's a China APAC supply chain. So I would be very surprised if there's a lot of global suppliers of critical components on Optimus.
Mhm.
So this may be where we're at this stage, and they're trying to develop the equivalent to this supplier in the US, and we just don't know who that is and when that is. Or maybe that's their own internal capacity. I'm not sure. But I think end state is localized supply chains for Optimus. I think the smartphone was the last global supply chain. And by the way, when you think about national security,
Mhm.
what kind of position have we put ourselves in with rare earths? And whatever. Let's say we can do some stockpiling. I think we can solve a lot of our rare earth demand in a couple of years. It's not long. We will solve rare earths faster than they solve Blackwell and Rubin level performance with NVIDIA
All
and the
right.
software CUDA. We will do that before they do that. But even if we solve that, we are still broken in the smartphone supply chain. It does run through China, and there's work happening. I think a lot of companies are thinking about that, but um, the point is Optimus, I think, is going to be a localized supply chain. The smartphone was the last global supply chain. We see the effects of what happened to the auto industry. By the way, every automaker is hurting. They're, except Tesla, I would say. Um, I, I mean, I can't think of an automaker that isn't hurting. Some of the China ones have brought in too much supply and are pulling the brakes back. Their growth is slowing, dramatically slowing. Some are still doing okay, but most of the major automakers, all the Western European, all the major US ones, they are hurting.
Yeah. No, the Japanese,
And
I mean, the Japanese EV makers, none of them are making money. And then the
yeah,
Japanese traditional ZSAICs and whatnot, their sales are way down because nobody wants their branded General Motors or Ford cars anymore.
yeah. Now I would say Toyota's probably doing okay,
Right.
but we're talking about Optimus. So yeah, this order, it could be one of those three stages of order.
Okay.
I think they're converging on the third design, and I hope we see it soon.
So I like what you had to say about multiple supplier resources, that this may not be the only one. And because I was thinking,
There's
given
no way it's the only one. Put it that way. There's no
yeah,
way.
okay.
They're going
Yeah,
to have to
but
multi-source this.
given what's going on with China. But this is something I'm assuming these actuators do require rare earths. And so that would give us, to the extent that maybe their initial orders are going to come out of China, it might be because the rare earths are there. I'm just thinking out loud.
No, that doesn't actually matter.